This woman never expected that she would have to marry the handsome CEO of a major company because of a mistake. Their meeting happened when the woman became pregnant from a doctor's negligence. Starting from feelings of hate and shame, in the end, both agreed to maintain the pregnancy to get an heir. Will the two of them get married? Even though, in reality, this woman has already fallen in love with another man. Worry, a beautiful girl, is an assistant writer who intends to keep her purity until marriage. She was raised by a single mother, and a grandmother loves her dearly. One day, while attending a friend's wedding, Worry catches the bouquet, which is a sign that within 6 months, she must get married. Her friends thought that Worry couldn't have a boyfriend. Gang-jae then invited Worry to church to pray there, because Worry is indeed a girl who is devout and obedient to religious teachings. Fear was actually felt by Gang-jae, who that night almost kissed Worry. As an adult man, he also couldn't resist his desires when with Worry to show his affection. In contrast to Worry's character, her mother Enrin is a singer who often changes partners. After returning from church, Worry caught her mother kissing a man in the car, which made her upset. The scene shifts to a hospital filled with loud music, coinciding with the arrival of a handsome man named Raphael. Raphael is the CEO of Diamond Medical Foundation. Raphael visited his wife Mari, who at that time was actually having an affair. Mari told the man to hide quickly, fearing her husband would find out. Apparently, Raphael wants to tell Mari that he has now been declared completely cured of stomach cancer after completing chemotherapy. Not only that, Raphael also handed her a divorce petition stating that he no longer loved her. It is known Raphael married Mari from pressure from his father for business interests. By coincidence, Worry visited Raphael's hospital because the drama crew intended to use the place as a filming location. During the meeting, Worry, who was sitting at the same table as Rappel, seemed to recognize him and felt like they had met before.
아는데요. 바꿀 겁니다.
She remembered Raphael as the man she had her first kiss with when she was still at school. Not only Worry, but Raphael feels like he has met that girl, although he doesn't remember whereas it was long ago. In the evening when he returned home, Raphael explained the reason to his father for divorcing Mari. Due to the illness she suffered from before, Raphael apparently once froze his sperm to have offspring and actually wanted to have a child with someone he loved. But that girl was not Mari.
아무리 생각해도 그게 말이는 아니야.
All the time, he didn't have any feelings for Mari, even though they were already married. Quietly, she's dropped on their conversation and went home to tell her mother about it. She didn't want a divorce because she still loved Raphael very much, along with all his wealth. The materialistic her mother suggests that her daughter undergo artificial insemination with Raphael's sperm secretly.
걔도 꼼짝 못하겠지.
The next day, Worry went to the pregnancy clinic for a routine checkup. Because she stayed up late the night before, Worry fell asleep on the exam couch and didn't realize that the doctor called the wrong patient's name.
만혜씨.
In a semi-conscious state, she agreed when the doctor asked about her readiness to undergo a procedure, which was insemination. In fact, the procedure was actually scheduled for Mari, who was already waiting in line at the same clinic. The doctor apparently made a very fatal mistake by injecting the wrong fluid into Worry, who is unmarried. Realizing the doctor pretended to perform a procedure on Mari and hid the malpractice involving Worry as she was afraid her medical license would be revoked. She hopes the insemination procedure on Worry will fail, which can be determined in the next 2 weeks. On the other hand, Mari met Raphael and confidently said that she would soon be pregnant. Raphael was angry because his intention to divorce was blocked by Mari. Without his knowledge, Mari used the sperm he had frozen. One day, a press conference for the cast of Max of Desire was held at a building owned by Raphael. The event was attended by many of Sung Il-'s fans, but Sung Il-'s attention was focused on a woman who was none other than Enrin. That also brought his memory back to his school days when he once dated her, which resulted in a child. At the same time, chaos also ensued because Gang Jae was also chasing a criminal named Man Cheol, who had also entered the press conference room. The chaos increased when Worry fainted. After being taken to the hospital, the doctor treated Wooni said that Worry was pregnant. Gang Jae and her mother, aware Worry has never been in a relationship, feeling impossible, Worry asked for a retest. However, the result was still positive, her mother angry as she felt deceived by Worry and Gang Jae, who had acted beyond limits. To prove that the test result was wrong, Worry went to the pregnancy clinic where she was first examined. The doctor said the same thing, that Worry was indeed pregnant, and even apologized for her mistake of performing artificial insemination on the wrong patient.
임신하셨습니다.
Hearing that, Worry's gaze became blank, unable to believe what she was experiencing. Feeling worried, that night, Gang Jae went to Worry's house. Worry said that the doctor had misdiagnosed. Unexpectedly, Gang Jae actually took Worry to church to propose to her. Everything was carefully prepared by other church members. To make it more romantic, Gang Jae even lowered the engagement ring using a drone. Confused about what to do, Worry admitted being pregnant. There is still no clarity about who the father. Worry then explained why this could happen, which was caused by medical errors. Worry said no plan to keep the baby in her womb. Gang Jae promised to help her abort and to sue the doctor in court. The two of them will act as if nothing happened and continue with their wedding plans.
내가 할게.
Worry researched artificial insemination malpractice cases to learn about people's experiences on social media. Worry also wrote on a Q&A blog. However, all the answers only made Worry feel more frustrated. All this time, there was something Worry wanted to tell her mother. However, she didn't dare to say it because she was afraid of hurting her mother. She actually wanted to know why her mother decided to keep the pregnancy at such a young age. The next day at Rosa's clinic, bowed to Raphael and Mari. She apologized for making a procedural error. Mari, shocked and worried, intended to report the matter to authorities. Moreover, it was Raphael's last sperm that could produce offspring before Raphael underwent chemotherapy. It's different with Raphael, who sees it as an opportunity to end the relationship with Mari. Mari says if they could have a child through another mother like in other countries.
하고 났는데 우리 아이가 어딨어?
여보,
Mari pressured the doctor to disclose details about the woman who got Raphael's sperm. She wanted to make sure the woman would keep the pregnancy. On that day, Worry was set for a pregnancy termination. However, Mari instructed the doctor to postpone it and by some time. Mari already knew Worry, who had been involved in a collaboration with Raphael's company. Mari visited Worry and gave her vitamin supplements from Sweden to strengthen her pregnancy. She said she was the one who should have received the insemination injection. She pleaded with Worry not to terminate her pregnancy, just the future child of Murray's husband.
남편이 대표님.
However, Worry considers Mari selfish considering her future. She then leaves Mari and throws away the vitamins she gave her into the trash. Meanwhile, besides managing the cosmetics company, Raphael's father wants him to focus on running the hospital business. He plans to open a hospital in China, as plastic surgery is very promising there. Mari, who was at the meeting, wanted to talk about the insemination program to her father-in-law, but was stopped by Raphael.
상의드릴 문제가...
나가자.
Moving to the Diamond Medical Foundation Hospital, which will be the filming location for the drama Max of the Desire. Worry started going back and forth to that place more frequently. Unexpectedly, she saw Raphael from a distance and recalled an event from her past when they met. At that moment, Worry imagined that she was now pregnant with that man's child. But in the end, Worry gathered the courage to approach him. He spoke privately with that man.
네. 아기 너무 갖고 싶죠.
Previously, Raphael was already aware that Worry had become a victim of a doctor's mistake related to his sperm. Raphael really wanted to have children after he got the chance to live again following a diagnosis of cancer. However, entrusting the baby in Worry's womb was not the right way to go about it. He wanted Worry to think about her own future as if this had never happened. He even promised to provide anything Worry might need if she faced any difficulties.
작가님이 그런 일 당했다는 거 알고
Moving on to Sung Ael and Enrin. It turns out Sung Ael learned that Enrin had kept her pregnancy in the past. After decades, Enrin must reveal this because Sung Ael's biological daughter is the assistant writer of his drama.
네 드라마 보조 작가야.
Unlike his attitude the last time they met, Sung Ael suddenly came to Worry's office bringing food and apologized for his rude behavior before. But Worry felt that the man was very strange because he looked at her with a sharp gaze. Sung Ael didn't expect his daughter would grow up to be a beautiful and intelligent girl. Mari's affair was with Man Cheol. The two of them were caught on camera being affectionate in a hotel room. The man asked Mari to wear the necklace to symbolize their relationship. However, as Mari knew Man Cheol was dealing with the police, she threw away the necklace and left the man fell asleep. One morning after church, the pastor told the grandmother that her granddaughter was pregnant. The grandmother kicked Gang Jae because she thought the man was inappropriate, making her pregnant. Everyone around was very surprised, but Worry explained that what she experienced was a medical error. Next day, Mari invited Worry to meet Raphael's father, who had been informed about the issue. As Mari wished, Raphael's father wanted Worry to give birth to his grandchild because after this, Raphael would most likely not be able to have offspring. When Worry refused, Raphael's father asked the servant to bring a box of apples, which turned out to contain 1 million won. After Worry gives birth, Raphael's father promised to double the amount. Her family's financially struggling. Worry disagrees with Raphael's father's request.
그에 대한 합당한 보상을 해주겠다고 말이.
The next day, when she was terminating the pregnancy clinic, Mari and Raphael's father were already waiting for her in the office. Repeating what she said yesterday, Mari mentioned the amount Worry could receive if she agreed to give birth to the baby. Enrin, who was reluctant to listen to it, was silent when she learned of the huge sum, which she could never earn in her lifetime. She refused to be paid anything because for her, her daughter's future was above everything else.
우리 딸 인생을 건 합당한 보상이 도대체 뭔데요? 원하시는 말.
Even though she was in the operating room, suddenly Worry canceled the procedure. She believed that her mother had once been in the same position as her and chose to keep the pregnancy for a reason. The misunderstanding between Worry and her mother, which caused the girl to be hurt, was finally resolved. It turns out, Enrin never considered Worry a burden, but rather a source of pride.
무슨 소리야? 내가 왜 후회해?
Because she was given the chance to be born, Worry will let the baby she is carrying see the world. This decision is difficult for Gang Jae, but he tries to accept it. The next day, Worry and Gang Jae went to the hospital where Raphael worked. He intended to explain to Rahel the reason why Worry decided not to terminate the pregnancy and wanted to draft an illegal agreement. Upon arriving at the place, both of them were shocked to find a man with stab wounds, whom Gang Jae recognized as Man Cheol. At the same time, Worry fainted and collapsed, needing Raphael's help. Not only them, everyone at the Diamond Medical Foundation was also shocked by the incident. After regaining consciousness, Raphael took the initiative to take Worry to the doctor because Gang Jae still had to investigate the crime scene.
우리야.
Given the chance to talk privately, Worry said she intended to keep the baby. Not because of the promise of compensation money from Raphael's father, but she believed everything had value according to her religious principles. Because Raphael agreed, Worry would bear the medical expenses and other costs. After having a pregnancy checkup, Worry made a request to Raphael. Considering she grew up without a father, she also wanted her baby to have a complete family and receive love from both parents. That was burdensome for Raphael, who wanted to separate from Mari. The shocking news about Manchiol was broadcasted in various media. Mari suspected her mother had taken Manchiol's life because the man was an obstacle to Mari's controlling Raphael's wealth. However, the mother in a wheelchair claimed that she did not do it or hire someone to kill him. Meanwhile, Worry, who was at the Diamond Medical Foundation, accidentally saw Raphael alone with a woman whom she later found out was an artist. True to his nickname as the Hunter of Celebrities, almost everyone Raphael dated came from the celebrity circle. At that time, rumors about him even spread on the internet. This made Worry worried, as she was pregnant with his scandalous child. She became hesitant to entrust her baby to Raphael, even though he was the biological father. Under Sung Ail's insistence, he showed up at Enrin's house to meet Worry. However, Enrin scolded him and forbade him from telling the girl anything until the issue was resolved. Unexpectedly, Worry came from the front and Sung Ail's arrival surprised her. Worry remembered the press conference when Sung Ail called her mother. However, they claimed to be middle school friends. Manchiol's case hasn't reached a breakthrough. Gang Jae continues to investigate who has ties to the man. One of the people he interviewed is Mari because she was once caught on camera being affectionate with Manchiol. All the evidence gathered, but Gang Jae hasn't reported it to his superiors for personal reasons. If Worry knew Mari was a murder suspect, she wouldn't hand over her baby. Eventually, Gang Jae will help raise the baby and will keep quiet. Meanwhile, Gang Jae helps Mari retrieve the necklace she left at Manchiol's house. However, she reconsidered giving the necklace back to Mari and decided to use it to aid the investigation. This morning, Worry was shocked by the arrival of luxurious furniture at her office. It was sent by Raphael for Worry to work comfortably.
쾌적한 환경에서 일하시라고.
However, the girl reminded him that Raphael should ask first before giving a lot of things. While meeting, Worry asked about the rumor between Raphael and Miei, which he then denied. However, when Raphael went to the bathroom, Worry read Raphael's chat with the artist, which showed Raphael was lying. Worry asked about the rumors online about Raphael. Raphael did not deny them and said he started acting out after his mother died of stomach cancer. Raphael also has the same illness and has started to get rid of his old habits. When asked, he said his relation to Mari is just fine. The next day, accompanied by both families, Worry had her first pregnancy ultrasound. During the examination, Worry and Raphael ended up discussing Worry's dream of becoming a writer. Worry used to lack the courage to call herself a writer. Raphael from the past made him confident that he could achieve that dream. Since it was still very early, the ultrasound results weren't very clear. However, seeing that, Raphael's eyes were teary. Back from the hospital, Raphael showed the ultrasound to Mari and chose to stay married for their baby. Unlike Raphael, Worry was actually overcome with fear after seeing the ultrasound photo. She became hesitant to hand over the baby, even to the father. Worry began to fall in love with the baby in her womb. Raphael's father appointed Byung-jin to replace Raphael as the CEO of Diamond Cosmetics. Meanwhile, Raphael was asked to manage the hospital as profits declined from the incident involving Manchiol's death.
병원 일에 신경 좀 쓰라고 했잖아.
The incident is still being investigated by Gang Jae. Sure, the perpetrator is Mari. Because the CCTV footage was missing, he tried to look for it at the Diamond Hospital waste disposal site. In the pile of used syringes and gauze, he found a flash disk with footage of Manchiol in the elevator. After returning, Gang Jae visited the service center to pick up the flash disk of Manchiol's has been repaired. In the recording, a nurse at Diamond Medical named Sinmi is seen as the last person to see Manchiol alive. Gang Jae thought that if Myung was an agent of leader Kim, who was nothing but a criminal. However, at that time, his superior ordered him to find out if the nurse held a grudge against Manchiol. Elsewhere, Gang Jae is investigating Myung, suspect in Manchiol's death. Gang Jae assumes leader Kim is involved with the Diamond Medical Foundation and must be investigated immediately. However, the police captain sitting next to him denied any connection between this case and Chairman Kim. The motive for Myung taking Man-cheol's life is from a debt. Pregnancy makes Worry's estrogen hormones increase. Her desire rises. Seeing Gang Jae's Adam's apple, she feels irresistible. Worry asks Gang Jae to her house, and at Gang Jae's house, Worry tries to seduce him with the scent of perfume, but he is not perceptive.
내가 청소 안 했다고 다음에 오자고 했잖아.
Another way was attempted, but it caused Worry to fall off the table when she leaned her elbow. The man was cold and didn't notice the hints given by Worry. He even felt guilty towards himself for kissing Worry. Considering Raphael is not the CEO of Diamond Cosmetics, but rather the hospital director, he asked Worry to write an intro article about the hospital. Meanwhile, Byung-jin, Mari's ex-boyfriend now CEO, aims to take over the company from Raphael and his father. The plan was told to Mari, who seemed tempted. If the hospital expansion in Taeyongkok succeeds and all shares are taken over, Byung-jin will get rid of Raphael and his father. However, unbeknownst to them, Raphael was watching them from the upper floor. That night, Raphael called Worry about the progress of the hospital intro he was working on. Then, Worry said she would send the article the next day as she write a love letter to Gang Jae. Considering his invitation to connect was rejected initially, however, Raphael asked her to send it tonight so it could be reviewed. The next day, Worry realized that the email she sent was mixed up. The hospital introduction article was sent to Gang Jae, while the love letter with erotic was sent to Raphael. Meanwhile, Worry's invitation to sleep with Gang Jae was accepted. They plan to have dinner at a restaurant Worry wants to visit and stay overnight at a nearby hotel. The two of them can't stay calm because they feel nervous. During their 2 years of dating, this was the first time they rented a hotel room for the night. Unfortunately, interruptions occurred. From phone calls from Raphael to a false fire alarm. They felt like that night was a sign. If tonight is not the right time for the two of them, Gang Jae invites Worry to go home. However, Gang Jae asked Worry and they decided to get married after their baby is born. Meanwhile, not even halfway through realizing his plan to take over Raphael's company, Byung-jin's corruption was exposed in the middle of a meeting. It turns out he hired someone to be the head of plastic surgery in Korea. Raphael found out about the Real Plastic Surgery CEO through a video call. A man known as Woming will even order skincare products from Diamond Cosmetics to use in his plastic surgery hospital. In the end, Byung-jin himself was eliminated. It turns out, even though she seemed tempted at first, it was Mari who reported Byung-jin's plan to Raphael. Mari did all of that to win Raphael's heart. However, Raphael's decision to divorce was non-negotiable, especially after seeing the recording of Mari being affectionate with a man. The divorce plan was then revealed in front of Worry, her family, and Gang Jae. After hearing from Enrin that his daughter was getting married and pregnant, Sung Il rushed to Worry's house. Without beating around the bush, Sung Il stated that he is Worry's father. Enrin spoke the truth, disappointing Worry because she felt she knew nothing about her father who died young.
어딘가 아빠가 있다는 것 좀 말해줘도 되잖아.
Meanwhile, Sung Il invites Worry to discuss something. In a luxurious theater, he came bringing flowers and hugged the girl. In that meeting, Worry realized that her perception of her father was completely different. The stories about her being active in school activities and having participated in a writing competition were all fabrications by her mother. In addition to expressing his happiness Worry is getting married, Sung Il also gifted her a new laptop to be enthusiastic about writing. However, Worry still can't believe the presence of a father at her current age. Therefore, it's difficult for her to call Sung Il dad.
내가 얼마나 기쁜지 모른다.
The morning, Sung Il visited Worry's house, but the girl wasn't home since yesterday. It was known that she was sleeping in the office while pregnant, which made Sung Il very worried. Enrin said that Worry's pregnancy was caused by medical malpractice, which made Sung Il furious, and he went to the Rose Clinic, where Worry had undergone artificial insemination. Sung Il was concerned about his daughter's future. However, the way he expressed his concern was wrong, which made Worry angry and asked him not to interfere.
그 문제는 선배님이 이래라 저래라 하실 일이 아닙니다.
Mari also, unfortunately, left home because she was unexpectedly divorced by Raphael. She returned to her mother's house. Raphael and his family only knew that Mari's parents were abroad. Stressed, she chose to quit. However, her mother stopped her by suggesting an idea, avoiding divorce for Mari. She took the initiative to report Raphael for alleged domestic violence.
맞아요.
That is a threat to Raphael. As everyone knows, Worry, his affairs will collapse. Worry won't hand over her baby to a perpetrator of domestic violence.
이혼하자는데 왜 이러는 거야?
Raphael's decision to divorce was opposed by his father. Thanks to Mari, their cosmetics business has thrived. His father doesn't understand Raphael's reason for divorce is personal he cannot disclose.
그 얘기가 왜 또 나와?
The next day, to gain Worry's sympathy and ask for her help, Mari showed fake domestic violence bruises. Worry approached Raphael and scolded him. Knowing that the domestic violence complaint had reached the police, she immediately left the man. Considering the complaint of false accusations was rejected by the police, Raphael decided to investigate it himself. His investigation produced results. Because a hospital cleaning staff saw Mari already had bruises on her face before meeting Raphael. All the evidence he obtained, including photos of Mari's infidelity with several men, was presented to Worry for clarification. Worry responded with an apology. From the beginning, Worry wished the baby in her womb to be raised by both parents. However, the reality is that she and Raphael feel fine they grew up with a single parent.
엄마 아빠 다 있는 집에서 아기가 자라는 게 좋다고 생각하는 거.
She then started to think that with Raphael's poor household conditions, the baby could suffer. Meanwhile, a video of Sung Il angrily ranting at the Rose Clinic was recorded by a patient and spread on the internet. The media assumed he was abusing his power at the clinic. That affected the decrease in Sung Il's followers on social media. The next day, Enrin visited Worry and gave the published interview article of Sung Il. The article reveals that he has a secret daughter. The true story was also revealed about why Enrin hid Worry's face and the lies he once indeed told. Sung Il wasn't exactly the man Worry had imagined. The man was kind towards Enrin when she was pregnant. It's just that Mrs. Sung Il asked her to stay away from that man, and from that moment on, she vowed not to meet with Sung Il.
덕질이 앞에 나타나지 마라.
Worry then called Sung Il, who was frustrated with the news in the media. The man hid his sadness when Worry asked if he was okay. Unexpectedly, the situation has now reversed. Netizens who initially criticized are now supporting Sung Il because Jin Hee, a doctor from the Rose Clinic, uploaded a clarification video. If he made a mistake causing Worry to become pregnant at Raphael's request, not only that, Sung Il's social media followers skyrocketed and he received advertising offers.
최성일이 선배님이 딸이라니!
After pleading for help from Raphael's father to avoid divorce, Mari receives a guest from Sweden. Not a friend, but her own husband named Doppel, who is now free from prison. Prior to Raphael, Mari lived under her real name, Malja. To straighten out her plan for her child to marry a wealthy husband, Mari's mother threatened to throw Doppel in jail. Now, Doppel is threatening Mari with money if she doesn't want her identity exposed.
이제 쌤쌤이지?
Raphael gave Myung's items to assist in the investigation of Jae's gang. It turns out that one of the items was a towel with the words, Sharing Love Event 2019 written on it. From clues, Gang Jae searches for Myung's location, and when he finds her, she flees. Gang Jae chases her and discovers Myung has committed suicide by drinking poison. Elsewhere, Sung Il, with Raphael, asks Worry and her family to watch a choir performance Worry was still in school. Gang-jae heads to the theater because of Worry's invitation to meet Sanael. However, he was shocked to see Raphael among them, igniting a flame of jealousy. After Worry noticed Gang-jae's presence, they all went together to a restaurant suggested by Raphael. Knowing Raphael supported Worry, including paying for all their meals, Gang-jae became annoyed and embarrassed. However, throughout their time together, Worry kept noticing Gang-jae's bored expression. Worry held the man's hand to show that she understood what Gang-jae was feeling. Raphael was very angry because his father sided with Mari, who was deceitful, and opposed their divorce, even though he knew the facts about the woman's infidelity.
나는 안 된다고 분명히 말했다.
Raphael's father was confident enough to hand over one of his valuable assets, the Star Cafe building, to Mari. Mari's joy was short-lived, as her husband Doppel, recently released from prison, awaited her at home with her frightened mother. Feeling cornered, Mari, who was about to call the police, was pushed by Doppel, causing the knife she was holding to fall. Mari grabbed the object and pointed it at Doppel, but she was pushed on sofa and lost consciousness. Doppel was hit by a large frame by Mother Mari. It turns out that all this time, she could still walk. The case of Mancheol's death will be closed because Myung, the perpetrator, has committed suicide. However, Gang-jae remains convinced that his life was taken by Boss Kim, the drug king being hunted by the police. Moreover, Myung's last words provided a clue that Boss Kim might be at Raphael Hospital. While visiting Myung's foster mother, who was being treated in the hospital, Gang-jae found a strange piece of paper. He rubbed it with a pencil and a code appeared that he couldn't understand. In the midst of an unsolved case, Gang-jae invited Worry to go camping. They recalled their first meeting, where Gang-jae thought Worry was a robber, and the period of their courtship for 2 years. Camping in the rain, it turned out, wasn't such a great idea. The rain started in the morning and only got heavier as night fell. It made their tent leak and collapse, so they decided to sleep in the car. The next morning, they enjoyed the surroundings. Then Worry said, "Let's have an affair with Mancheol, the man who was killed at Diamond Hospital, which is being investigated by Gang-jae." The man was shocked, not because of the information conveyed, but because Worry knew that information.
뭐야? 오빠 알고 있었어?
While chatting in the car, a container truck passed by, and Worry noticed that the writing on the truck's body was the same as the code that Gang-jae had shown her. He assumed it was a delivery truck carrying goods related to leader Kim. After returning from a date with Worry, he discussed with his fellow police officer to check the contents of the truck. The next day, because she couldn't reach him, Worry went to the police station to meet Gang-jae. His colleague said that Gang-jae had been reprimanded for not reporting that Mari was Mancheol's mistress. Worry was shocked to hear this because yesterday Gang-jae said he didn't know about the issue. Worry then scolded Gang-jae and accused him of lying so that Worry would still hand over her baby to Raphael and wouldn't have to raise a child that wasn't her own.
내가 아기 안 보낼까 봐 그래서 거짓말한 거야?
Meanwhile, the cunning Mari does everything she can to avoid being divorced by Raphael. Just like her child, Mari's mother always has a very cunning and elaborate plan to make their scheme successful. The mere thought of getting rid of Doppel crossed both of their minds.
저거만 없으면 되는데.
While talking, Mari's house door knocked. Raphael stood there and gave her divorce papers. At the same time, Doppel's mouth gag fell off, and he screamed for help. To prevent Raphael from entering, Mari was forced to sign the divorce papers and kick him out. Raphael smiled while Mari was panicked. Raphael felt very relieved. He even invited Worry to his house to show her the crib and baby supplies he bought and the room he decorated himself. Regarding the divorce, he told Worry and promised to raise the baby in a good environment. On her way home, Worry met Mari, and the two got into an argument. Worry felt there was no sincerity in any of the words Mari had said about her really wanting the baby. Worry is grateful her baby won't be raised by Mari, who has a bad personality.
정말 다행이네요.
In the evening, Worry resolved the issues with the Gang J. They also planned to take a photo together in the studio. The next day, during the group photo, Worry suddenly started crying and left the studio. She suddenly asked to break up and return the ring from Gang J. Worry still remembered the moment when Gang J lied to her and didn't want to keep the baby in her womb. The decision that Worry thought might also be the best for Gang J, but Gang J still doesn't believe the reason Worry ended it. Gang J asked the girl to look into his eyes and say firmly if she wanted to end this relationship. Without hesitation, Worry did it and left Gang J standing silently in the middle of the drizzling rain.
진심이야.
In the midst of rain, Worry ended her relationship with Gang J. She didn't want the man she loved to be hurt facing a complicated situation where she had to carry someone else's child. The contact name for Gang J on Worry's phone is deleted. Even though the girl remained heartbroken and upset, all day a similar situation was also experienced by Mari, who, under pressure, had to sign the divorce papers. With the story she made up, she complained to her father-in-law. Soon, Mari's mother, back from Bangkok, entered the room where Mari and Raphael's father were talking. This was followed by Raphael initiating a discussion about divorce. Divorce papers have been signed, but Raphael's father is preventing the divorce. This was because Mari's mother had promised to help establish a partnership with a clinic in the Bangkok region.
나는 너보다 마리가 더 필요해.
After his mother passed away, Raphael had no one. Moreover, his father sided more with Mari than with him. That's why Raphael's dream was very simple. He wanted to get married and have a child whose arrival would be eagerly awaited. Meanwhile, Sung Ayel continues his lawsuit against Jin Hee, Rose Clinic doctor who caused Worry's pregnancy. Together with Worry and Raphael, he visits lawyer Jungbuk, an old friend. Worry's condition, which seems unhealthy, makes Raphael worried. Sung Ayel also informs him that Worry has broken up with Gang J and that could affect her life. Raphael is worried about the condition of the unborn child in Worry's womb, as Worry has no appetite and can't sleep. He knows a mother's emotions can be transferred to the baby. After the lawyers, Worry, arriving at the office, was greeted by tables full of delicious food served by the chefs. It turns out Raphael brought it to the office to improve Worry's mood. But still, it didn't bring back her appetite.
저 잠깐 나가서 바람 좀 쐬고 올게요.
That afternoon, when Raphael went to give Worry a gift, he found out Worry had already left the hotel. Raphael watched Worry's house and ran into Gang J, who seemed upset because Raphael asked about the reason for their breakup.
남자를 신경 꺼요.
Today is the first time Gang J has met Worry. Even though he begged not to break up and wanted to fix everything, Worry remained firm in her stance. Not to interrupt their conversation, Raphael came to pick up Worry for a checkup. When walking towards Raphael, Worry fainted and was immediately taken to the hospital. Worry's condition is not healthy, and if not treated, she may have a miscarriage. Raphael's attention is important to Worry and the unborn baby. One of the things he did was send a voice note with a recording of himself reading a fairy tale to the baby. Raphael asked Worry to join a yoga class. As they are not married, the yoga poses they did felt awkward. So, not even an hour in, they left the class.
저희는 다음에 하는 게 좋을 것 같은데요.
Elsewhere, mediation on the malpractice case by a doctor at the clinic repeated. Without a lawyer, Dr. Jinha apologized for his mistake to Worry and Raphael. Worry accepted the sincere apology because, for her, the baby she is carrying is precious, and she will not take it to court.
아기를 낳기로 마음 먹었으니까.
The next day, after hospital meeting ended, Worry entered the room, listened to Raphael's talk with his father about the divorce. She explained that she would not give up her baby unless Raphael and Mari got divorced. In front of Raphael's father, Worry defended Raphael because she didn't want her baby to be raised by a woman as bad as Mari. After returning from office, Worry saw Gang J, who let her go to live happily. Even though he held back her tears, he let go of the girl who had once been a part of his life. Both Gang Jae and Worry continue their lives by looking forward and eagerly hoping to overcome all obstacles. Recently, Worry has captivated Raphael with her thoughts. He even started dreaming about her. Dreaming of kissing Worry, Raphael immediately became restless. Even when he met the girl at the hospital, he chose to avoid her and dispel his wild imaginations. However, Worry's belongings left behind on the meeting chair required her to retrieve them. As he followed her outside, he saw Worry in danger because a motorcyclist was coming from the opposite direction. He immediately pulled Worry into his arms. Raphael remembered the kissing scene from the dream and brought lips closer to Worry's lips. The situation became awkward, and both decided to part ways without having the chance to return the items Raphael brought. The anxiety made Raphael unable to think clearly. With no one to talk to, he ended up confiding in the framed ultrasound photo of his baby. Not unlike Raphael, Worry also dreams of the same thing. She too felt restless and indeed confused about why she suddenly dreamed of something unrelated to her real life. However, the anxiety turned into panic when she was chased by church members who wanted to embrace her. Worry's decision to give birth to the baby was considered sacred and worthy of praise. At that moment, Worry was even swarmed by so many people that she couldn't move and could only give in when she was pushed. That caused Raphael's leg injured. He had to be taken to the hospital. There, Worry saw Raphael's seriousness as a prospective father because there were many parenting guidebooks scattered on the table. Growing more eager to meet their child, the next day, Raphael took Worry for an ultrasound. Joy enveloped them both until, without realizing it, their hands were clasped together. Raphael, who was very emotional indeed, couldn't stop crying even after leaving the ultrasound room. Afterwards, Raphael's proud father invited Worry to meet to ask about the new opportunity created by the girl. Worry remains determined not to give up her baby if Raphael and Mari do not divorce. Remembering that the baby in Worry's womb will be the only grandchild, Raphael's father also asked Mari to agree to the divorce. Meanwhile, despite being heartbroken, Gang Jae is assigned to investigate a container truck suspected of carrying goods for leader Kim the Drug King, who is a fugitive. Together with police partner, Gang Jae saw someone with a large bag getting out of the truck. He went to Daemon Hospital and entered a room. When Gang Jae and his partner followed, the person had already escaped.
여기 맞아?
맞아. 분명 이 방에 들어왔어.
Gang Jae then asked Raphael to tear down the wall of the room because his intuition as a detective told him that if the mysterious man was there, Raphael refused unless there was an official warrant.
뭐든 다 도와드렸는데 이젠 저도
Gang Jae's relentless attitude in his investigation of leader Kim made his colleague sick. According to the woman, Gang Jae's belief that leader Kim is in Diamond Hospital is based on his dislike for Raphael, who is none other than the heir to the hospital and the malpractice that resulted in Worry's pregnancy. Gang Jae, who continues investigating the mysterious man, joins the maintenance crew and enters the room where the man disappeared. When caught by Raphael, the two argued until suddenly the floor opened and Gang Jae fell into it slightly. It turns out there is a secret room there whose contents have been moved, leaving no evidence behind. Raphael, who also entered the secret room, then asked his father about leader Kim. However, Raphael's father thinks Gang Jae and the police are trying to damage the hospital's reputation. Worry and Raphael are no exception as the seeds of love begin to grow between them. Feeling like she's in a dream world, Worry kisses Raphael amidst the sunset scenery as if reliving the past. Once she realizes, she panics and runs away out of embarrassment.
내가 무슨
저도 같은 생각.
Raphael felt the same way, even though there was a little of happiness in his heart. The happiness grew even greater when his divorce petition was granted by the court. After several failed attempts, today Raphael expressed his feelings to Worry. He believes that Worry is the woman destined to be his life partner. When Worry is able to organize her feelings, Gang Jae focuses on investigating the case of leader Kim. He returned to the secret room in the Diamond Hospital and speculated if that place is definitely used as a location for drug production. Out of curiosity, Raphael approached Gang Jae to get an explanation about leader Kim. The next day, Raphael finally expressed his feelings to Worry. If his invitation to date is still not accepted, the man continues to try hard to win the heart of his beloved. One of his efforts was calling Worry by her last name. The joy for both of them is a disaster for Mari. Not long after the divorce, her ex-husband already has another woman.
하지 마. 넌 이제 그럴 자격 없다.
If Raphael and Worry unite, it's not impossible that his plan to seize the man's wealth might fail. Unlike Mari, who was pessimistic, her mother always had alternative ways to support the success of the plan. This time, the method is extreme. He intends to abort the baby in Worry's womb.
둘도 헤어지겠지.
Mari, lost in mind, informs Gang Jae of the relation between Raphael and Worry and invites him to work together to separate them. The man refused and asked Mari not to stress Worry out. Because her invitation was ignored, Mari moved on her own to execute the plan. She met Worry at a restaurant and put a dangerous liquid into Worry's drink, which could cause the fetus in her womb to be unsalvageable. Fortunately, Raphael arrived at the right time, as Worry was about to drink the cup with liquid. Raphael advised Mari not to put any pressure on Worry, as it could have an impact on her pregnancy.
아기가 졌잖아. 우리 씨한테 부담 주는 말.
As if realizing something, Mari grabbed Worry's glass and splashed it on the girl's face. Without saying anything, she left Raphael and Worry. Unlike her mother, Mari still seems to have compassion, because the baby will be Raphael's first and last descendant. If there hadn't been a malpractice incident, Mari would be pregnant. The news of Raphael and Worry's relationship got to Sanayal. Raphael's father's reaction seemed surprised. Instead of being angry, he was actually enthusiastic. Gang Jae himself was still trying to uncover the connection between Chairman Kim and Diamond Hospital. Through a contractor, he found out who had sold the building materials for the hospital in the past. While searching for the order list at the materials store, someone hit Gang Jae from behind, knocking him unconscious. After regaining consciousness, he was told he was hit by the store owner, thinking he was robbing.
누구야, 자재상 주인이죠.
Worry, informed by the emergency contact, rushed to Gang Jae at the hospital. Even though a bit awkward, Gang Jae said that Worry is free to date anyone without having to worry about him. The next day, the writer at the office invited Worry to go to Gang 1 to visit the filming location of her drama. Instead of working, Yeri actually invited Worry to go for a walk and enjoy the moment. Upon arriving at the sea, Yeri asked to meet someone and let Worry enjoy her solitude. As if by coincidence, Raphael suddenly approached Worry, who was recalling this place where she had her first kiss with Raphael a few years ago. Raphael pretended to have work-related business in the Gang 1 area. In fact, Worry's visit to Gang 1 was part of him plan so that the girl could breathe fresh air. In the end, they both went for a walk as if they were on vacation until Raphael invited Worry to his room. However, Raphael didn't that the girl had taken a vow of abstinence, which was to preserve her purity before marriage.
순결을 지켜서.
They finally went to their respective rooms after Raphael handed over a memo, which contained a thank you note, because thanks to Worry and her unborn child, he had become a better person. On the other hand, Gang Jae, hiding the investigation of leader Kim, received orders to handle the case of a person named Hua who is being treated in a hospital in the Ikkian area. According to hospital officials, the man who was stabbed in the stomach managed to escape after undergoing treatment. Even the CCTV didn't help, since the man was wearing bandages on his face. He had just undergone plastic surgery.
찍힌 거 봐도 얼굴 못 볼 거예요.
However, he left behind a same bag, which was carried by the mysterious man from the container truck, once been tailed by the J Gang. It turns out, the contents of the bag were overnight supplies, which for Gang Jae became a clue about leader Kim at Diamond Hospital. Gang assumed that leader Kim stopped selling drugs and started a new business, which is none other than performing facial surgeries on criminals who are fugitives from the police at none other than the Diamond Hospital.
여기서 성형수술을 했어요.
With that operation, he could indeed obtain a new identity, and leader Kim reaped many benefits. Actually, by having the client list of leader Kim, the police can catch many criminals at once. without them realizing the list they had been searching for was actually inside the necklace Manchiel gave to Mari. Once thrown, the necklace released a flash drive containing before and after photos of people who had undergone plastic surgery. Mari think if it was because of that data that Manchiel was killed, because he threatened the criminals who had undergone the operation procedure. In order to make as much money as possible, Mari's mother plans to hand over the necklace to Worry so that Worry will be struck with fear, especially if the girl finds out that Raphael Hospital is collaborating with the criminals.
겁만 주는 거야, 겁만.
Meanwhile, Worry was saying bye to Raphael with warm hug. After a long journey from the alley, she didn't realize that danger was lurking. She woke up because he heard the sound of someone sneaking and opening his drawer. She suddenly saw a man wearing a black shirt and helmet pointing a weapon at Worry and asking about the whereabouts of a necklace. It turns out previously, Mari's mother suggested trapping Worry. Mari was asked to secretly put the necklace into Worry's bag and spread information about the necklace's whereabouts to all the residents of Diamond Hospital. And that was what caused the intruder to enter Worry's room. At that time, Grandma Worry saw her grandson attack. She wanted to call police, but the attack was stopped by Gang J. The man remembered discussed the necklace given by Manchiel at the beginning of the case investigation. After asking Mari where the necklace was, he went to the jeweler. The person confirmed that Manchiel requested a necklace to be made with a small slot in the pendant to place a memory card. Seeing the grandmother's desperate situation as the intruder pointed a weapon at her neck, Gang J surrendered. The intruder fled and pushed the grandmother until she fainted. Grandma Worry was carried by Gang J to the hospital. The doctor said the grandmother had a concussion and her consciousness was still absent, leaving Gang J with a deep sense of guilt. If only he had come earlier, he might have been able to save the grandmother. He promised to capture the leader of Kim regardless of risk.
내가 범인 꼭 잡을게.
Meanwhile, Doppel, husband and prisoner of Mother Mari, escaped. After days trying to remove the handcuffs from hands and neck, the man also tied Mother Mari to a chair. The situation worsened when Gang J suspected Mari of the mastermind giving the necklace, leading to danger befalling them. Even though she denied knowing about the necklace contents, Mari and her mother copied the files that were there. They then indeed replaced it with a recording of Mari's voice, actually extorting leader Kim to pay if he wanted the file. On the other hand, Enrin feels guilty because he previously argued with her mother. They argued as Enrin's girlfriend is the child of his mother's boyfriend, and neither was willing to give up their respective partners. While Enrin was waiting for her mother, Worry went home to get the grandmother's rosary, believed to aid prayer. After enduring a traffic jam and facing obstacles, Worry successfully found the rosary. Her item caught on the patient's wheelchair, causing it to break and scatter everywhere. Worry felt extremely guilty and deeply concerned. Especially after that, her grandmother's condition suddenly became critical indeed. She was comforted by Gang J, who gave him a ride. Raphael's connection to the hospital helped Grandma Worry get a room. If it weren't for that man, her grandmother might still be in the emergency room. While waiting for her mother to wake up, Enrin reveals the secret of the rosary. Worry thought there is a history behind that object and its ability to grant prayers. Grandma always listened to Worry's prayers and looked for solutions so that her granddaughter's hopes would come true. Because of her kindness, many people were happy when they heard he had woken up. First person grandmother asked about when she opened her eyes was Gang J. However, the man was at the police station, so communication was conducted over the phone. Feeling relieved Grandma is conscious again, Gang J reveals possibilities considered about this case. There are overlapping facts between Raphael and Leader Kim. While Raphael was in cancer treatment for 2 years, Leader Kim disappeared. Then, when Raphael returned, Leader Kim also started taking action again.
암 투병 끝나고 복귀하자마자 김 회장이 활동하기 시작했어요.
Gang J's superior forbade him because Raphael's father is close to top police. Gang J could also be fired if he continues to insist. However, despite being warned, Gang-jae did not remain silent. Especially on one night, he received a gift of flowers, with a paper with numbers similar, with a safe in Raphael's room. That night, Gang-jae sneaked into Raphael's office room. In the safe that he opened with the code written on the paper earlier, there were many passports and money. He also found what he was looking for, which was none other than Man-cheol's necklace. Unfortunately, Gang-jae returned empty-handed because taking evidence without a warrant is the same as stealing. On the other hand, Mari feels guilty about the break-in at Wari's house that resulted in her grandmother getting hurt. After checking on her grandmother's condition, she got into her car in the parking lot, unaware that Doppel was waiting for her. The man immediately covered Mari's mouth and took her hostage because he felt hurt by her mother's actions. How shocked Mari's mother was to see Doppel taking control over her daughter. Even though she pleaded, Doppel still did not accept Mari's mother apology. Then he ended her daughter's life by stabbing a weapon into her neck.
다음 생에 다시 만나자.
Without a second thought, the mother got up from her wheelchair and ran to hug her daughter. It turned out Mari indeed acted very well because the knife used by Doppel was actually a toy knife. For the past 3 years, her mother had been lying about the condition of her legs. Mari was absolutely furious because her mother used that condition to completely and utterly manipulate her into doing everything she wanted in every possible way.
왜 3년이나 휠체어에 앉아 있었어? 왜?
Doppel also made Mari realize that her mother never loved her, so Mari never got the chance to love herself. Days after Grandma Wari was allowed to go home, upon arriving home, Enrin thought about breaking up with Hyung-sik so that his mother could date Hyung-sik's father. The grandmother's condition is improving Gang-jae's soaring enthusiasm because the order to retrieve Raphael's safe has been issued. However, when it was opened, all its contents were gone. He was sure last night the safe was full of passports and money and the necklace he sought. He and his boss were kicked out by Raphael's father.
저기 업무를 하다 보면요.
The owner of the safe won't be contacted, he's on a date. Hearing that, Gang-jae felt that Wari was in danger. He then tracked the location of his phone and rushed to the place to meet Raphael. Raphael playing piano singing was surprised by Gang-jae's arrival. Suddenly, the man grabbed Wari's hand and forbade her from being with Raphael because the man was a bad person.
이 남자 뺐으면 안 된다고!
Gang-jae is convinced that Raphael and leader Kim are the same person, the drug king. Wari felt that the theory was ridiculous and didn't believe it. Moreover, the evidence Gang-jae had was already gone. Feeling like he wasn't getting a break, Gang-jae followed Raphael, who was taking Wari home. After Wari entered, he immediately threatened to finish off Raphael. If something happens to Wari, Raphael won't stand by. If Gang-jae accuses him, Gang-jae is not using his objective perspective as a police officer because Raphael is now dating his ex-girlfriend.
뭐야 갑자기 아저씨 원빈대사? 그리고 갑자기 왜 반말?
Due to his baseless accusations against Raphael and Damon Hospital, Gang-jae was suspended for 1 week. However, he insisted on continuing to investigate this case thoroughly by secretly following Raphael. The man went to Wari's house and stayed overnight there due to a pipe leak in his house. Sure enough, that night he heard the sound of a baby crying, and he was so scared that he ran to Wari's room. The girl said that if her mother's words were not true, the sound Raphael heard was the sound of a cat. They then chatted together and came up with a nickname for the baby Wari was carrying.
쫙쫙 붙네요. 목도리.
They were talking and Raphael fell asleep in Wari's room until he woke up realizing Enrin was in front of him. Misunderstanding the situation, the grandmother who entered the room thought the two had already engaged in a relationship, so she decided to marry them off immediately. Unlike her grandmother, Enrin believes Raphael only likes Wari because the girl is carrying his child. He doesn't really love her child like Gang-jae does. Indeed, in the afternoon, Raphael approaches Enrin, who has just finished teaching at the singing school. He explained that his feelings for Wari were pure, and he was confident he could make her happy.
우리 씨를 행복하게 해줄 자신이 있습니다.
Grandma Wari's opinion is the same as Raphael's father, who wants to hasten their marriage. He even asked Wari to quit her job immediately and focus on the baby. Wari understands Raphael's father's wishes and will consider them slowly.
이사장님 하시는 말씀은 제가 귀담아서 잘 듣겠습니다.
After staying for 3 days, today Raphael has to return to his home. Warmer than usual, Enrin even offered Raphael to watch his performance. They set off together with Sung Il, who brought a luxury car and watched. Knowing that Enrin has broken up with Hyung Sik, Sung Il feels like he has a new opportunity. He asked the producers to let Enrin pass, though they believed there were better singers. From a distance, Enrin eavesdropped and felt out of place at the event. She was able to get in via Sung Il's connection with the producer. Mari was disappointed in her mother for lying to her all this time. Mari's peak disappointment was when she believed that her mother's plan would succeed without anyone getting hurt. In reality, Grandma Worry almost met the same fate as Man Cheol because of the necklace targeted by Leader Kim. Even though Grandma Worry has recovered, it still doesn't change her cold attitude to Mother. Mari just wants to have a happy family like Worry's family, whose relationship feels warm. Hearing that request, Mari's mother could only cry and decided to leave her home. However, a mother is still a mother. She wants her child to be happy and have a decent life, even if it means taking a wrong path. And a child is still a child who needs a mother in this world. Therefore, the two decided to live as one family and stop deceiving others.
사기치는 거 그거 안 한다고.
Young Jae follows Raphael. He stealthily enters an alley. Unexpectedly, the person being followed was practicing dancing, which surprised Gang Jae. Receiving a call from Nahi, Jae's gang heads to the headquarters. Nahi is investigating if Mancheol and Myeom are the two people involved with Leader Kim and gambling at the wrong place. It is known that there was another person gambling at that place named Gongju, a doctor at Diamond Hospital. Gang Jae will get a list of people undergone plastic surgery from the doctor. To avoid arousing doctor's suspicion, Gang Jae didn't come as police officer, but customer. He collaborated with Nahi, who caused chaos by accusing Dr. Junggu of malpractice.
이보세요. 무슨 일이시죠? 그쪽이 이 정도세요?
When the doctor left, Jae quickly searched for the list. Raphael, aware of the commotion, entered the doctor's room, asking Gang Jae's team to follow procedure. After Gang Jae's left, Dr. Junggu, knowing he was a police officer, asked him to cover up. He will reveal who the real leader of Kim is.
김 회장이 누군지 알고 있습니다.
Before he had a chance to speak, Dr. Junggu's mouth was silenced forever. At the children's playground, he followed Mancheol and Myeom. That night, the investigation continued, during which the CCTV cameras recorded the last person to visit the playground, who turned out to be Rafal's father. However, there was something even more shocking unbeknownst to Jae's gang or Nahi. It turned out that Jae's gang leader was an accomplice of Leader Kim. Back to Worry. Invited by Raphael to a meeting, Raphael asked Worry to stand in line while he stepped away for a moment. Suddenly, the person standing in front of him started dancing, followed by others joining a mob dance. Then Raphael followed her, and when the music stopped, he knelt down to propose Worry as his wife, but Worry rejected him.
아니요.
예.
Throughout the journey home, the two argued because for Worry, getting married without considering many things went against her conscience. Meanwhile, Raphael wants to hasten the wedding so he can have a complete family for his baby. Feeling they were not on the same page, Worry said that she could raise the baby, even without a father's presence. During the interrogation by Gang Jae and his superior, Rafal's father denied having taken Jongga's life. One of the doctors from Diamond Hospital to reveal the identity of Leader Kim on Gang Jae. Raphael's father mentioned his favorite flower that was once damaged by Gang Jae. Hearing flower, Gang Jae recalled the paper with the safe code that came with the flower pot. Feeling it was a clue, Gang Jae approached the flower pot in the corner of the room. Without asking for permission, he dug into the soil and retrieved an object that appeared a necklace he had been looking for. The second piece of evidence after the CCTV footage near the crime scene was finally found. The third piece of evidence he got was when a flower pot was smashed to kill Jongga. That evidence was enough to hold Raphael's father. Other evidence was indeed found on the seat of the late Jonggu, where Leader Kim indeed ran a plastic surgery business. However, Manchiol, who was gambling, deviated from the original plan. He wanted to gain a lot of profit from leader Kim by extorting him. He threatened to leak the data of clients who underwent plastic surgery, and that is what ultimately led to him being taken out by Myung. Afterward, it was Myung's turn to be eliminated by making it look like she committed suicide. Meanwhile, Jongga was killed for trying to leak their secrets to the police. With that information, Jae's gang leader, Mr. Kim, concluded that the person capable and in control of all this was Raphael's father.
야, 김 회장 우리가 잡았다.
All the evidence points to him, but the Jae gang remains unconvinced that Raphael's father is the leader Kim. Meanwhile, Raphael's proposal was rejected by Worry. Raphael wants to marry too soon. Up until now, Raphael still hasn't been able to contact Worry, especially now with his father caught up in a case that's affecting Diamond Hospital. Given the evidence, Raphael couldn't bring himself to trust his father. When he learned his father left the medical room unbeknownst to him, his father was framed by leader Kim. At that moment, he was chained inside a glass tank filled with water, ready to drown him. At that moment, a manager named Lim Yoon-sok asked the woman called Miss Kim for help, but it seemed useless as she was the one who had been behind leader Kim's mask all this time. As an insider, it was easy for her to plant evidence in Raphael's safe and his father's flower pot.
드라마 작가실 갔다가 어겨놓고 왔네.
The true story revealed Miss Kim was actually the child abandoned by Raphael's father. In other words, the woman is Raphael's biological sister. That is what led leader Kim to commit various crimes, including planning to take over the Diamond Hospital.
버렸다고 생각하고 좀 이러는 거냐?
Without looking, she left Raphael's father in despair. He ran away and committed suicide because of a crime accusation. Mrs. Song, a doctor's wife at Diamond Hospital, wanted to tell a secret to Raphael. She was Raphael's father's girlfriend. During the Jonggu tragedy, Raphael's father was actually going to meet her, until that face was captured on CCTV and proved that Raphael's father had an alibi. Besides Raphael, the person who knew they were dating was Miss Kim. In fact, that woman often arranged their date plans and meetings.
이 사장님 빨리 찾아야 돼요.
That information was conveyed Raphael to Gang Jae. At the same time, Worry left a message for Gang Jae that Miss Kim is leader Kim. Because when she encountered her, Worry felt the same aura as the intruder who broke into her room before.
뱀 같은 느낌이었어.
Revealing secrets, Worry is held hostage by Miss Kim. Gang Jae can't stay still idly by and quickly stops the car driven by Miss Kim. Unfortunately, she doesn't care about Gang Jae's presence and drives his car quickly. However, Raphael is ready to follow his with a taxi. Gang Jae and the police also joined in the pursuit of Miss Kim. Raphael arrived first. He shared his location with Gang Jae. At the location where Worry was held captive, Raphael found his father tied up. The water in the pool kept rising as Raphael tried to destroy the pool. He didn't realize high-voltage electricity was near Worry's feet, ready to shock her if it came into contact with water. Gang Jae arrived at the right time, he noticed. He told Raphael to step back and shot at the glass pool, which hadn't been breakable with a pistol until now. When the pool shattered, both Raphael's father and Worry were able to survive. Gang Jae and Raphael were finally able to truly breathe a sigh of relief. While the police carried out their investigation, Worry had already returned to her normal life. One day, Yuri developed hemorrhoids and had to rest completely for 2 months. As a writer's assistant who knows the storyline, the director asked him to work on the remaining script. She will be assisted by a writer, a former teacher of Yuri. Writer Wong recognized Worry's talent and promoted her from assistant to lead writer. To celebrate her debut as a writer, she celebrated with her family, as well as Raphael and Gang Jae. The presence of the two men made the situation awkward because they both liked Worry. Worry took over the script writing. Anrin will also replace her mother in managing the restaurant because her mother's shoulder is injured and should avoid heavy activities. Meanwhile, Mari learns that Raphael and Worry have broken up and tries to get close to him again. She even cooks for him, something Mari never did while they were married. Raphael asked his ex-wife to give up. After returning from Raphael's house, she found Miss Kim at her home. The woman took Man Cheol's memory card from Mari. She also offered Mari leadership at Diamond Hospital if she agreed to be her subordinate.
대장시켜줄까?
Anxiety made her it hard to concentrate writing. Gang Jae visits Worry at the office and invites Worry to start everything from the very beginning. However, Raphael also comes in to apologize for pressuring Worry to get married and perhaps a little too soon.
잘못했어요. 내가 급하게 결혼을
The two of them seem to be competing for Worry's heart. That only made her mind more blocked and made it difficult to pour ideas into the script her was writing. The situation she is experiencing mirrors the max of the Desire character, a woman loved by two people at the same time. In the script, she is also unsure who to choose.
나범인?
That's why Worry asked for advice from Yeri, the head writer of the drama. Worry, living normally, Raphael's father also decided to go to the temple. The incident that happened to him some time ago awakened him to his past sins that turned someone into a criminal and endangered the lives of those he knew.
내가 괴물이었다.
Before leaving, Raphael's father shared a secret. Raphael always thought he was an only child. He was told that Miss Kim was his older sister. Raphael's mother gave birth to Miss Kim before marrying Raphael's father. Raphael's father ended up leaving her. That's why Miss Kim chose to take revenge.
그 아이가 범죄자거든.
Miss Kim's position, Leader Kim, is at Mari's house. That woman is enticing Mari with power to make her leader of Diamond Hospital if she agrees to be her subordinate. She took this step as her plan to take over the hospital after Raphael's father passed away failed. Everyone knows the true identity of Leader Kim. Infiltrating the office, Mari is copying the hospital's secret files. Arriving home, she handed the data and requested the key to the handcuffs. Sadly, Miss Kim was disappointed as the contents of the memory card were not as she had hoped. Then, Gang Jae and other police officers entered and pointed their guns at Miss Kim. She was immediately arrested on various charges. Now she is labeled as a drug mastermind and involved in murder. If it weren't for Mari, none of this would have been revealed. Mari had the option to follow Miss Kim's orders, but she chose to side with Raphael and she wants to become a better person. The case with Leader Kim seems over, but Gang Jae feels he is still bothered. He feels uneasy with his superior, Mr. Kim. Sure enough, Mr. Kim is on the same side as Miss Kim. With his power, he will free Miss Kim and demand the promised reward of $1 million.
너 주기로 한 10억 당장 넣어.
In the interrogation room, Mr. Kim asked Gang Jae release him. As a police officer, it's understandable he needs extra funds elsewhere. Watched by authorities ready to act, the only thing he can do now is coexist with evil. However, Gang Jae won't accept his superior's actions. For him, police officers trusted by the public should not be fraternizing with criminals.
이해하고 싶지 않습니다.
On the other hand, Worry was faced with a rather complicated script issue. She had to change the ending part of the script, which caused some IL to be unable to shoot. Worry must work hard for 2 days. Her energy can't keep up with Gang Jae and Raphael, who keep coming to see her. In the end, the two men decide to drink together to bond.
이성 문제가 세상에서 가장 큰 문제인 것 같았는데.
After downing a lot of drinks, they both started rambling. Raphael, who was more drunk than Gang Jae, ended up being taken home. The next day, both of them joined in celebrating Sung Il's final shoot for the drama Max of the Desire. At that moment, Sung Il's joy doubled because Worry called him dad for the first time.
제가 더 감사합니다, 아빠.
Gang Jae also experienced this, so the man known to Worry as Gang Jae's father is actually his stepfather. Today, Gang Jae took Worry to the columbarium, place where remains of her mother and stepfather are kept. Gang Jae's mother, who experienced domestic violence, apparently remarried a man. Initially, Gang Jae called him uncle because she felt awkward. However, one day, she accidentally called him dad. Every year on the same day, they celebrate it by going out to eat together.
기적일까?
That situation also made Gang Jae confident to raise the baby that Worry is carrying as his own child. Because for him, family isn't about blood ties, but about the moments shared together.
낳을 아기 내 아이라고 생각하고 키울 자신 있어.
After returning from the columbarium, Worry thanks Sanael for the time they spent together and his efforts to get closer to Worry. Worry hoped that her father could mend his relationship with her mother. Receiving support from his son, Sung is planning to propose to Enrin. Meanwhile, Enrin decides to take over the restaurant and leave her other job. One morning, she is visited by friends from her singing school and her mother's beach retirement home friends. Raphael and Gang Jae also follow and ask Enrin to turn on the TV.
어머니 저 TV 좀 보세요.
On TV, Sanael is seen conducting an interview. He apparently proposed to Enrin through a televised broadcast on all channels. Hearing that, Enrin shed tears. Afterward, the person proposing joined the princess. The ring, he wanted to bind a promise to have her by his side. The proposal will be approved if the Worry chooses between the two men who proposed to her. Worry herself has actually decided who between Raphael and Gang Jae will be chosen as her life partner. Before Enrin gets married, she will ensure that her child has made a choice between Gang Jae or Raphael. Because she doesn't want to steal the moment when Enrin is proposed to by Sanael, Worry will announce her choice tomorrow.
내일 당사자한테 직접 말할게.
That made Gang Jae and Raphael impatient, but as true gentlemen, both of them will accept whatever decision Worry makes. Not according to plan, the next day Worry's stomach felt pain. After being examined at the hospital, she was diagnosed with appendicitis. At that time, the doctor recommended surgery before her condition worsened.
수술할 수 있어요.
Worry was initially hesitant to undergo the procedure, considering that she was pregnant. She was afraid the anesthetic might harm her fetus. However, the doctor assured her that the type of anesthesia to be used was safe for pregnant women. Her family kept encouraging. Eventually, Worry was able to gather the courage to undergo the surgery. Fortunately, Worry's surgery went smoothly, and her baby was perfectly fine.
아무 문제 없대.
Worry didn't want to use anesthesia and chose to endure the pain for the sake of the baby. But when the pain became worse, she was forced to take that option. Everyone paid attention to Worry's condition and her baby. Grandma and Enrin didn't even have time to eat. Besides them, Gang Jae and Raphael faithfully accompanied Worry to sleep. While the girl was resting, the two of them read the pregnancy journal, which moved them to tears. Everything Worry went through felt unreal. Pregnant due to medical malpractice until finally accepting the presence of the child. In short, Enrin and Sanael are already married, as Worry, who has now given birth to her child named Riwa. Today is the celebration of Riwa's 100th day since birth. Everyone is busy preparing for the event. For the group photo, Worry wants everyone to wear white shirts and jeans. As Riwa's parents, this moment was so emotional that Raphael and Worry felt awkward when they were to speak. They hope Riwa grows up to be a sweet and happy daughter.
하루하루 행복한 날들.
Exactly 10 months ago, while just recovering after surgery, Worry encountered the person behind that name. The person she would marry was always there for her in every moment, both in joy and sorrow. That person also always protected her and ensured Worry was never hurt. After going through many things, Worry finally realized how important this man was in her life. She was sure Essie could get through a lot if she was with him. The man was the warm spring once lost and now returned. He was ready to propose to the man and ask her to marry her. And that man is Gang Jae, the person who has accompanied Worry for quite a long time. To express his agreement, Gang Jae pulled Worry's arm and kissed her lips tenderly. Worry and Jae prepare for the wedding. Riwa stays with Raphael. As her father, Raphael enjoys caring for his beloved daughter. Worry, who had now become the lead writer, began to show progress. She showed decisiveness in making decisions. As a result, the actors who would star in the drama trusted the script she wrote. At her current age, Enrin can become pregnant. They are eagerly awaiting the arrival of the baby who will be Worry's sibling.
너무 축하해!
The day before Worry's wedding, Grandma asked Worry's mother to sleep together. Because after that, this habit might not be possible daily. Grandma reminisced about every moment that had happened, how bad their situation was. Their family always stayed together. And that was something to be grateful for. At the wedding day of Worry and Gang Jae, getting the bouquet, the man stuck in the parking lot. Gate opener button was not working, so he decided to break through it. Before he walked, police sirens chased him. Worry rushed to the police station, although she wore a wedding dress, beautifully made up. Because the road to the taxi and bus stop was closed, Worry was forced to run like the other marathon participants. When she finally reached the pickup point, the taxi ended up canceling the order. With no other choice, she had to look for another mode of transportation. A bus stopped a few meters away from her. The driver said that it would take an hour to get to the police station.
안 돼! 결혼식 늦어요!
Afraid of being late to the wedding, she begged with the driver and the passengers. Along the way, she told them everything she had been through leading up to this moment, from the love story to the practice of artificial insemination. At the station, Worry pulled Gang Jae and boarded the same bus. Grandma Worry, Enrin, and Sanael, who followed, also got on. Meanwhile, the guests are arriving, but the leader is not present. Raphael explained they were delayed unexpectedly.
보고 있다고 합니다. 보고 있는데.
As soon as they arrived, the event began. Worry, who had a beautiful and charming appearance, walked towards Gang Jae. Emotion overwhelmed Enrin. Recently, the child she raised with love is now someone else's wife. The excitement of the event was felt after the wedding. They often gather together. As Riwa's father, Raphael often visits Worry's family. He enjoys being there because since he was a child, he dreamed of eating together. Sanael now also considers him as his own child, and they live as a complete family. The long-awaited honeymoon arrived. Then, Raphael interrupted to say Riwu was sick. The baby he took to the hospital was having shortness of breath and a high fever.
많이 아파요.
Fortunately, Raphael informed Worry because if he hadn't, he wouldn't have known what to do. While waiting for Riwo with Worry, Raphael reminisced about the times that had passed. The baby who was once so small has now grown into a lovely daughter. Knowing that Ria was all right, Worry and Gang Jae returned to the hotel. They tried what failed before, each expressing their feelings with full love. As the night went on, it felt increasingly intense until the outpouring was unstoppable, leaving behind unparalleled happiness.
뭔데?